Some people look at him and say he's a partisan villain, you know, because he loves politics and he's good at it and he's tough.
I mean, there's no pretense with Mitch. Another thing I like about him, he doesn't pretend to be a rock star. He doesn't pretend, you know, there's not a lot of bravado with Mitch. It's what you see is what you get.
And if you're the smartest guy in the room, you'll usually win. And Mitch is usually the smartest guy in the room.
But know one thing, you get in a debate with Mitch, come prepared to fight, man. You better have your A game on to be able to do it.
The biggest crisis in my early life was coming down with polio when I was age 2.
If you can imagine the circumstances, there was his mother in 1944 at a time when everybody was just terrified by polio, and suddenly her son has it.
We were fortunate. We were 60 miles from Warm Springs, Georgia, which Roosevelt had set up as a polio treatment center. And so my mother drove me over there.
And they tell her that what she needs to do is to give him therapy 4 times a day and keep him off his feet. He's a toddler. Now, if you've been a parent, I mean, how do you keep a toddler off his feet for a couple of years? But that's what she had to do.
My first memory in life, age 4, was the last visit to Warm Springs, and the nurses told my mother, looked like I was going to have a normal childhood, wouldn't have to wear a brace.
If you think about that, it's pretty easy to see how her son could have determined as a University of Louisville student that he wants to be a United States Senator and did it, that he wants to be the leader of his party in the Senate and did it.
Mitch also has an understanding of the challenges that many of our members of the disability community face as well, which has given him a certain warmth and affection that unless someone had gone through something like he has, might not have in abundance.
I can see Mitch. I can understand even more clearly his persistence, his resilience, his absolute, you know, one foot in front of the other, just keep moving.
I have a dream. My 4 little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
The great issue of my generation was the civil rights issue, which had bubbled to the top in a very significant way during the 1960s.
He and I were both young interns who happened to be in Washington in the summer of 1963 and heard Martin Luther King's I Had a Dream speech.
Couldn't hear a thing. I was down at the Capitol, but I could see this throng of people all the way down the mall.
He was working up here as an intern for Senator Cooper. Cooper was a Lincoln Republican, and he had to know the vitriol because he was reading the letters that were coming to Senator Cooper. I mean, it wasn't like, go get him, Senator. It was like, we're going to come get you, Senator.
He cast a vote against apartheid in South Africa, against President Reagan, president of his party, against his policies, and against that. That was an unusual vote for a Republican senator at the time.
I'm confident he took a lot of heat, but it was the power of his conviction, and I admire the hell out of that. I think it's one of the defining moments of his political career.
I think fundamentally he's an idealist, and I think that his reverence for the Senate as an institution has made him more effective, and frankly, it's made him more observant of the rules.
What makes him a good mediator is he understands how our government works and how the Senate as an institution works.
You know, when you're in this bubble with all the distractions, all the noise of the day, no one is better than Mitch MCConnell at shutting all of that out and focusing on the task at hand.
The Vice President, Joe Biden, and I negotiated 3 very significant bipartisan agreements.
And we were about to go over a cliff, would have been disastrous for the recovery. He said on the floor of the Senate, he said, I'm finished negotiating, I'll only talk with Joe Biden.
The failure to act was not an option. In other words, we were not going in the end fail to raise the debt ceiling and have America default.
And we sat down and said, what can you do, Mitch? What can I do? And we hammered it out.
He's an institutionalist, and he knows that if we want to get an agreement good for the country, which is his job, then other people have to have their say too. The other fellow might be right. So if Mitch is going to get some of his ideas, then Joe's got to get some of his, and that's how you get an agreement for the country.
And on New Year's Eve, literally New Year's Eve, we avoided a catastrophe.
And I often say if the founders look down and watch C-SPAN 2, which is the Senate, they wouldn't be disappointed. The Senate will soon pass the 21st Century Cures Act.
Everybody said it was dead. Mitch and I worked together. He said, this is what I can do. I said, this is what I can do. And we worked with great people like Lamar Alexander and others, and it got done. But what really shocked me, and this is the piece of him he doesn't show very often, he stood on the floor, and I'm in the chair, and he said, I ask unanimous consent of the United States Senate that we name the $1.8 billion cancer portion of this bill after Beau Biden, after the Vice President's son. Without objection.
Congratulations, Mitch. You've come a long way from being what Howard Baker told me was the smart, young legislative assistant to Marlowe Cook in Kentucky 50 years ago.
Mitch, I'd like to congratulate you on this well-deserved honor. It wouldn't have happened without Elaine, obviously, the brains of the outfit.
Mitch, congratulations, pal. I hope we get to work together for a long time. I know I'm out of office and you're in, but you know I'm available.